play action this, play action that. Oh dear, it's going to really cheese me off by the end of the year.
Injuries here, James?
For the Cardinals, tackle Marcus Gilbert was placed on injured reserve with a torn ACL. And for the Ravens, just some names that are showing up on the injury report who will most likely play on Sunday. Ingram has a shoulder injury. Marquise Brown has a hip. Chris Moore has an illness. Jimmy Smith has a knee and could be placed on injured reserve. And Marlon Humphrey has a back injury.
I hope it's not the same illness Sam Darnold has. Otherwise, we know who was hanging out with him.
Was Gilbert starting for this team?
I believe
before his injury. Yeah.
The Seattle Seahawks have moved up to 10th in our fell to 10th in our power rankings. The Steelers fell to 14th. The Steelers are favored by 4 in this one. NFL 100 nugget, gentlemen, on February 5th, 2006. Steelers wide receiver Hines Ward, I always keep my head on a swivel, earned Super Bowl MVP honors with 123 receiving yards and a touchdown as Pittsburgh defeated Seattle 21-10 in Super Bowl XL. Thank you. I've got nothing. I'm going to go with the power rankings on this one. The power rankings are taking Seattle. So am I. Neil is going with the Steelers after you said they just look spineless, gutless, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I think last year we saw, or maybe the last couple of years, a noticeable difference between the Steelers at home and the Steelers on the road. And I guess I picked them because at home they have been reasonably good. And I was a little bit disappointed in the Seahawks. I know it's only week 1, Jay, and this is overreaction week podcast, but were you not a little bit disappointed in the Seahawks? They seemed a bit disjointed offensively. They only got I think Lockett into the game and towards right at the end when he scored a touchdown, he had a big play, didn't he, at the end? I don't know, they didn't look as devastating with their pass rush on defense, and that was going up against what we thought was a very poor Cincinnati Bengals O-line. So a little bit disappointed in Seattle, and maybe a bounce back from the Steelers.
Well, considering Seattle was my lock of the week and managed only a 1-point victory, Seattle was a little disappointing. The Jacksonville Jaguars are at...
Wait a minute, Jay.
Oh, sorry.
Some big names here on the injury report for both squads, actually. Pittsburgh has paid T.J. Watt, James Conner, Juju Smith-Schuster, which is the big one because he has a toe injury, and Marquise, another big one with an ankle injury on the injury reports. The Seahawks have Ezekiel Hogg with a shoulder. David Moore is out this week. Lockett is nursing a back injury, and Mike Iupati, starting guard, also shows up on the injury report from the Seahawks.
All right. Well, we'll see how those injuries play out for that particular game. The Jaguars have fallen to 21st in our power rankings. The Texans moved up to 11th. They are favored by 9. I got an NFL 100 nugget on this one, too. On November 18th, 2012, Houston recorded a franchise record 653 yards of total offense, the most by a team since 1991, in a 43-37 victory over Jacksonville. Now, a Gardner Minshew nugget, or more specifically, his nuggets are only covered by a jock strap when working out with elastic bands. Just ask Steve Spurrier. This Gardner Minshew character is a hilarious dude, but we are all taking the Houston Texans in this one. Kevin, you have any thoughts on Gardner Minshew working out naked? Oh, Kevin's gone. Oh, I guess Kofi Annan had something important to tell him.
Probably about some of these nuggets.
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
I was hugely impressed with Houston. That game, actually, that Monday night game, that first one, the Houston and New Orleans Saints game, that was a cracker, wasn't it?
It was a good one.
But I tell you what, Watson got sacked 6 times.
Yeah, that's my problem. And I get it. This offensive line has not played together. They had a backup guard starting. They just got Laramie Tunsil. It's going to take some while for these guys to gel, but the way they were pounding the Saints with the running game is something they should have leaned on a little bit more. Duke Johnson and I'm missing the other guy's name right now off the top of my head. They have a nice one-two punch in their backfield, and they need to lean on that until this offensive line can pass protect properly because, again, they're getting Deshaun Watson, they're getting him killed. That was the fact that I don't know who was wearing Hopkins' jersey Monday night, but this dude dropped 4 passes, and that's not like Hopkins.
He more than made up for it, though.
He did. Quick hit on the injuries here. Hopkins does show up on the injury report for the Texans with ribs. Jacksonville has Calais Campbell nursing a foot. Marquise Lee was limited due to a knee injury. Yannick Ngakoue has a hamstring injury. And, of course, we all know about Nick Foles. Get well soon.
One of the interesting things for me, Jay, was seeing Houston playing without Clowney. Now, I know, when you lose a really, really top player, you lose his production, but you also tend to see a slight impact on the players around him. When you've got a great player, you tend to play a little bit better because a lot of attention is going to that great player. And I wondered if that Houston defense was suffering a little bit all around. I think J.J. Watt was taken care of a little bit more than usual, and maybe that's got to do with the fact that his partner there, Clowney, has gone.
Maybe. Could be. But we'll see. The 4:00 games.
Could you be less interested?
I'm trying to move things along here, Neil. I didn't have anything else to add to what you were saying. The Kansas City Chiefs are at the Oakland Raiders. Trust me, I'd rather talk more about the Jaguars and the Texans than the Chiefs and the Raiders. Chiefs are second in our power rankings. The Raiders moved up to 23rd, but the Chiefs favored by 7.5. They have scored 25-plus points in 22 straight games, which is the longest streak in NFL history. They're also looking to set a new record for most consecutive games scoring a touchdown in the first quarter with 23. I think that will be accomplished. I'm surprised the spread is only 7.5. We're all taking the Kansas City Chiefs in this one. There's no way the Oakland Raiders, who pulled off a victory in week 1, are going to be able to do the same thing in the black hole against Patrick Mahomes. But, James, what does the injury report say about that?
Hill is out, as we all know. That compound
couldn't have happened to a better guy. Jalen Ramsey.
James I think James got it wrong, James, I think actually you'll find that Tyreek Hill's got a karma injury.
Oh, gosh. The Oakland Raiders have J.J. Nelson listed with an ankle injury. He's questionable. Jonathan Abram is out after undergoing surgery for a torn labrum. And Corey Leggett, defensive tackle, is listed as questionable. Gabe Jackson is also out in this game.
Is that Corey legit? Is that legit, Corey?
I don't know. Liuget.
Yeah, that's legit. There you go. Kansas City Chiefs. We're all going with the Chiefs. I am surprised 7.5 doesn't seem high enough. A point spread
game.
Yeah,
did you see the
divisional game on the road.
Did you guys see the Oakland game? Was it good, James? Did you see it?
I saw bits and pieces enough to know that 2 things. That this defense for Denver is not what I'm accustomed to watching, and Joe Flacco is trash.
Mm-hmm. Which we kind of talked about already in preseason. Jeez.
The Raiders running back, rookie running back, also looks legit.
Josh Jacobs.
Yep.
Josh Jacobs,
yeah. The Chicago Bears are at the Denver Broncos. The Bears dropped to 13th in our power rankings. The Broncos are 28th. Bears are favored by 2.5. My only comment on this is because my boyfriends laid an egg, they now have to face their former defensive coordinator who practiced versus Mitch Trubisky every day last season. Matt Nagy needs to win this one, and Trubisky needs to get those truthers off his back. I am taking the Bears simply because they need it more. Yes, I have made the ultimate bad pick. They need it more. Chicago Tom writes in that Trubisky gets highlighted once again, late afternoon game that much of the country will likely see. He is 12-9 in daytime games, 3-3 at night. He has a passer rating of 96.7 in noon kickoffs, 83.7 in 3 p.m. kickoffs, and 63.4 in night games. Those night games are important because they come against better competition. Quarterbacks need to perform under the lights. Trubisky doesn't suck. He just sucks when you're watching. All Bears fans can do is pray that it isn't a fatal flaw. We'll find out what he's made of as he tries to rebound from a terrible Thursday night performance again. I'll tell you this, Tom, in my local area, the game that we'll be able to see at 4:00 will be the Saints-Rams. So we in the Northeast will not be watching Mitch Trubisky. He'll be hiding from us.
This is the Jay Cutler Bowl, is it?
Oh, God.
Yes. Yep.
Neil, stop cursing on the podcast.
Injuries, James.
Chicago Bears have Trey Burton as a limited participant with a growing injury. He's questionable. They will definitely need him. For the Denver Broncos, Ronald Leary, guard, and fullback Andy Janovich are listed as questionable. Linebacker Joe Jones is out with a triceps injury.
Did Trey Burton play in that week in the
He did not play Thursday night against the Packers. No, he didn't. He was out.
That could lead to a lot of why Mitch Trubisky didn't show up in that first game. Trey Burton, I think, is going to be an important,
very important part of that offense.
Will be for Mr. Trubisky.
Mm-hmm. And I thought about picking Denver because it's in Denver, but then I remembered what I previously said about the last game. Joe Flacco is trash. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was sure.
The aforementioned Saints-Rams game is next. The Saints are third in our power rankings. The Rams are fourth. Now, if the Patriots weren't first in our power rankings, the Rams would actually be lower or something. I don't know. Ultimately, the power rankings switched their pick from the Saints to the Rams by me taking out Greg's power rankings. So the power rankings now going with the Rams, who are favored in this game by 2.5 points. In case you forgot, it's been all over the place. The Rams defeated New Orleans 26-23 in overtime in the NFC Championship game. Last season, Drew Brees has 902 passing yards, 300.7 per game, 9 touchdowns, no picks in his past 3 versus the LA Rams. He needs 193 passing yards to become the first player in NFL history with 75,000 career passing yards. I think he gets there, but the 0 interceptions is going to be blemished versus the Rams, and the Rams will get the win at home. Our Saints superfan Chris says the Rams.
This is going to be on overtime today.
Just blatantly just says that. The Saints need to do a better job of stopping the run, generating a better pass rush up the middle. Getting David Onyemata and Mario Edwards back should help that. They need to cut out the stupid penalties. The Saints committed 2 penalties that gave the Texans a first down after a failed third down conversion. Both drives ended in a touchdown. The refs will be highly involved, keeping the game close. The NFL and the Saints 48, Rams nothing. That is
wishful thinking.
Do you think the Saints will get a couple of dodgy calls go in their favor?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Even it up a bit.
We're all taking the Rams, though. Nobody's taking the Saints.
Nah,
it's in LA, and I really don't like the Saints on the road, outdoors. I don't care how nice the weather is. Some injury news here, briefly. The Saints, Sheldon Rankins, defensive tackle, is a limited participant with an Achilles injury. Ted Ginn didn't practice on Wednesday due to an illness. He's listed as questionable, most likely will play. For the Rams, we've got Clay Matthews, non-participant this week for back injury. Eric Weddle is in a concussion protocol, and Michael Brockers was also a non-participant in practice this week due to a shoulder injury.
That's the second illness listed this week. It's early for the silent killer.
It is.
The Sunday night football game features the Philadelphia Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons. Eagles 5th in our power rankings. The Falcons dropped to 17. Eagles favored by 1.5 in this one. I will tell you that it took a while for the Eagles to heat up versus Washington. I mean, Washington had like a 17-0 lead, if I'm not mistaken.
Thanks for reminding me, Jay.
Yeah, I don't remember this at all.
Falcons are a completely different team at home, especially Matt Ryan. He had 2,452 passing yards. That's 306.5 per game, 18 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions in 8 home games last season. I seem to be the only one out on a limb here going with the Atlanta Falcons. You guys are all going with the Eagles.
I
know why James is, but Neil?
Well,
actually,